To thank a retired Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar for joining us today and sharing that insight with us. Now we move on to Russia-Ukraine. Lieutenant General Vladimir Alekseyev, a top Russian military intelligence officer who was shot today in a Moscow apartment and later hospitalized. However, Kyiv has not yet commented on this incident. Alekseyev, deputy head of Moscow's GRU, has been under Western sanctions for alleged cyber attacks and his role in the 2018 nerve agent attack on X by Sergei Skripal in the UK. Investigators have said multiple shots were fired by an unidentified individual who then fled the scene. Furthermore, the Kremlin said its secret services are investigating and keeping President Putin informed. Alekseyev has also led intelligence operations in Syria and was involved in negotiations with Wagner chief of Yevgeny Prigozhin during his 2023 mutiny. Regardless, no charges have been made against anyone so far. Meanwhile, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has accused Ukraine of carrying out the attack to disrupt peace talks. Let's listen in.
Террористический акт в очередной раз подтвердил нацеленность режима Зеленского на постоянные провокации, нацеленные, в свою очередь, на срыв переговорного процесса и готового сделать все, чтобы только убедить своих западных спонсоров не отставать от Соединенных Штатов в стремлении сбить их с курса на достижение справедливого урегулирования.
Now for this, we welcome Professor Andrew Latham. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Minneapolis. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us. Good to see you. Now, looking at this, can you tell us a little bit background about who is this individual, Lieutenant General Vladimir Alekseyev?
Well, he's a senior military officer on the logistics side of things. Not really a frontline commander, not likely to be implicated in any war crimes directly, but senior commander, important in terms of the Russian war machine, and probably quite well protected. One wouldn't know it from the outcome, but I'm sure at his level he had personal protection detail, which was responsible for preventing things like this. So bottom line is he's a prominent, high-profile, important, militarily significant actor in the Russian military, and his death, however it turns out to have been brought about, is a blow on several different levels to the Russian military and to Russia more broadly.
Right. Yes, I was also thinking, assuming that he is protected or well protected given his involvement, what do you think about the fact that, Lavrov has said that Ukraine is behind these shootings?
Well, that's standard operating procedure for the Russian Foreign Ministry and the Russian government in general, is to frame what Ukraine is doing as an act of terrorism. Strictly speaking, of course, this was a uniformed military officer who was a legitimate target, but he wasn't on the front line. He was apparently, according to Lavrov in any case, the target of an assassination, and that is, at least in the public imagination, that's totally illegitimate. In international law, it's a bit of a gray zone, but it's one thing to kill an enemy soldier in the opposing foxhole. It's quite another thing to do something way behind the lines to somebody who is a military officer, yes, but not a combatant directly. So framing this, like the Russians tend to frame everything Ukraine does, as an act of terrorism, is part of Russia's information warfare strategy when it comes to this particular conflict.
So, so how do you think this will be jeopardizing, or the fact that this person was shot, and also the fact that now Russia is accusing Ukraine, but of course Ukraine might deny, and Ukraine might say it's someone from internally from Russia. So how will all this further jeopardize the talks that are ongoing for the ceasefire and peace between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, first, this is the way information warfare works. There's a narrative that each side prefers. Russia would prefer that There is no internal dissent. It's not conceivable that this would have been a Russian killing a Russian. This was obviously an act of Ukrainian terrorism. And on the other hand, the Ukrainians have a vested interest in representing this narratively as, see, Russia's falling apart. They're feeding on their own. They're killing their own. And so that's another battlefield, as it were, not just the air, not just land, not just the seas, but this media propaganda battle space as well. In terms of its impact on the negotiations, I think it'll be relatively minimal. There'll be some finger wagging both ways for 5 minutes, and then it'll be back to business as usual, which is not making much progress on these talks because there's not a lot of common ground here. Will this derail the talks? No. Will it slow the talks? Not appreciably. Will there be some mutual recriminations in the first 5 minutes of the first meeting? I'm pretty sure there will be.
So, as the talks unfolded today in Abu Dhabi, but again, it ended without any breakthrough. But Russia and Ukraine did agree to a rare confidence-building step. So, what do you think? What did they mean by rare confidence-building step? Do you think we will be seeing something significant?
No, confidence building by its very nature is a small step meant to signal that, hey, we're serious about this. Can you reciprocate? And then there's another small step, and that's meant to build confidence, obviously, and build towards something bigger. So maximally, this is an important first step. There's another way of looking at it, though, which is that it's theater. Both sides have an interest in representing themselves as responsible actors to the international community. We really want peace. We really want to sit down at the negotiating table, and we want to end this war, and we're willing to take this step. But my sense is that neither are willing to take the next step, or a big step, if I can continue with the metaphor of steps. This limited step, this confidence-building move, fulfills the need to represent themselves on the world stage as responsible actors, and maybe it is the first step towards something grander. But I rather suspect, given the mutually incompatible goals that these two countries have in this war, we're nowhere near a resolution, a peaceful resolution. We're not even close to a ceasefire at this point.
And as you say, the confidence-building step, although small, is moving forward, but we know that the POW exchange was done again. So we have seen this POW exchange for a while now. How hopeful can we be? As other than this, we don't really see, as you rightfully mentioned and highlighted, that neither of them are willing to take like a big step.
Well, that's right. I mean, they have exchanged prisoners several times in the past, and that's to their mutual benefit. They want to represent to the mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters at home that they're concerned about these POWs, and they're doing whatever they can to return them. That's important for morale on the home front. It's also important to get some of these combatants back so they can be put back in uniform and sent back to the front. It has been framed as a signal of goodwill. But it's happened many times before and has led to no progress in terms of negotiated settlement. So confidence-building measures, broadly speaking, are about building momentum. These prisoner exchanges don't seem to be building momentum towards anything other than maybe a future prisoner exchange, nothing more than that. So again, the logic of confidence-building, building trust, so that you can build momentum, so that you can move toward either a ceasefire or a permanent peace deal. And I just don't see these gestures as playing into that real confidence-building logic.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that, and thank you very much, Professor, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us. Now, looking at France, France has detained